When there's so much on my mind, you mentioned it's hard to focus, but part of the reason is I don't usually have a plan. You mentioned you're good at planning or having some sort of a plan, 90% plan. I'm not very good at that. And I usually don't have a step one. I just go with it until all my problems are solved. But that's part of the reason I can't focus on doing one thing when there are 3 other things I need to do, and they just keep coming. When I don't have a set, like step 1, I'm doing this, and I'm rest assured that step 2 is coming, like your time is coming here, the tangents are just going to keep coming. And we talked about a certain value in tangents and a certain beauty in tangents, but whenever you bring up a tangent, you're bringing up a lack of efficiency. And increase entropy, if you will. And that's what prevents my focus, this lack of planning. And I almost need to, take a step back from all this mind, from everything that's going on. Just take a step back. I don't think I'm overwhelmed. Let me sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and write down a plan. This is not the right time to write down a plan.
Okay.
Maybe I should go quiet down. Just take a breath. Literally, take a breath. Calm down. And sometimes it takes a lot longer than it should. And if you're not disciplined, it's going to take you even longer and longer. And it's going to be less and less effective, unfortunately. But it's a skill, it's a craft that you need to hone in on. And you need to take a breath to be absent of all this mind, and then let the plan come. And the plan now, when you've taken a step back, it's clear what even step 1 should be, what step 2 should be. What should I work on first?
That's the perspective.
They're all there, but they're there in the distance. You've taken a step back, and they're all there in the distance. And now you can pick, and you have a better, as opposed to you being in the thick of it all. And you're like, what do I do first? I have no idea what to do first.
It's a hazy cloud, definitely. But going back to, this is great because it highlights the different ways we use our minds and the different ways they are wired in a certain way, to a certain extent. But the different patterns of the mind. And of course, it is a tool that is unique to you. Your mind is unique to you. How you see the world is unique to you. How you operate is unique to you. But it introduces this idea as your mind as a tool, as a sense, rather than this present entity that's constantly seeing everything and interpreting everything. At least it thinks of itself as all-seeing and all omnipotent and omnipresent.
It gives you a feeling. The eye gives you a feeling of invincibility.
Outside of it. So that nothing happens outside of it. That's the illusion that the mind is always projecting. And this idea of the mind as a sense, just like your sight, your eyesight is a sense. Just like your hearing is a sense. Just like you have the grooves within your skin give you a sense of texture and temperature. We have to start thinking of the mind. I think it's very useful to start thinking of our minds as such a tool and such a sense in order to reframe it, to reframe its role in our lives, really. Because as of now, when you look around, most of our daily lives are completely overtaken by that one sense.
I think it's important to have a frame of reference to understand what mind is. If you are going to have any shot at taking control or silencing it, if only for a matter of time, whatever time may mean in a silenced mind. But we have to understand what time is. And I like this idea of time, of mind being a sense. But to understand what that means from that analogy, I have to ask what we mean by mind being a sense. Because when we talk about your sense of vision or smell or touch, vision is easy to define. It gives you, your eyes give you a sense of what's around you, of what is around you. Like all the material, matter, things. It gives you a sense of this tree that is out there, the leaves, the colors. Your ears give you a sense of all the sounds that all this matter is making and this frequency that you translate. It's very easy to put a definition to these senses that we're used to having. How do you do that for mind if it were a sense? What is the sense of mind? What is its function, really?
So, first of all, a couple of things I think that are worth talking about with this. First, we have to think as a mind as a sort of supreme, like a master sense, in that it aggregates a lot of the data from all the other senses. And in a lot of ways, it dictates. So you have different senses have different weights on your understanding of the world. At the end of the day, okay, what is a sense? A sensory object, so any object that can sense, the purpose of sensing is to gather information, hoping to be useful information for you to move around the world. So we have to think of a sense as an object that is trying to gather information in order to make the next prediction or the next decision. Where do I go from here? That's the question. Where do I go from here? What's my next move? You have this sort of predictive analysis that exists in all sensory objects. That's the point of sensing. From the unicellular organism that's sensing glucose, to a plant that's sensing water, to a human being going. But yeah, let me just. So a sensory object is an object that gathers information. And you have this mind that if we are going to call a sense, we can't put at the same level. For instance, even beyond the mind, before we even discuss the mind, it's a completely different. Sight and hearing have different weights in our understanding of the world. We are mainly visual creatures. A dog is olfactory. A dog smells. Like a dog's most potent sense is the sense of smell.
The biggest node in the mind, in the brain's information processing.
Yeah, even volumetrically, the visual cortex in our brain.
The highest value is
most energy
for a dog. It's visual for human.
Yeah, so we are very familiar with this BAFA. Yeah, which is super cool. Yeah,
we have brought it up in
it's a super cool thing. Like it never ceases to amaze because you see how you override, how you prioritize things. But ultimately, we have to think of the mind as an aggregate of all of our senses. The mind is trying to portray a full picture. The mind is trying to shape something whole, therefore increasing the usefulness of the prediction or the probability of a certain point of view or whatever it is. But it is a sort of aggregate of all of those senses. And in that way, it is a sort of master sense.